Hello, this is Sushi with another chess video. As you can see, I just hit 1400. I'm pretty hyped about that. So this is going to be the game that got me to 1400. So it was a pretty bad game, gonna be honest, but we take those. So my opponent was like 1390 or something like that. So game begins with standard e4 e5. Knight f3, standard stuff, standard Ruy Lopez. I go for the Morpheus defense. Most people drop this bishop back, but taking is a play. But what isn't a play is what my opponent does. So the logic here is that this knight is guarding this pawn. So you take the knight away, and now this pawn loses a defender. So my opponent just takes. The thing is that this pawn actually is defended. Defended by this move over here. Queen d4. Computer recommends this move over here. It's kind of achieves the same thing. But what happens is that it attacks both the pawn and the knight. If you don't do anything to the knight, or if you don't do anything, you don't move the knight or whatever, you're just gonna lose a knight. So my opponent moves the knight back, and I win back the pawn. And I guess a play you could do this, but I don't know. This might even be better. I don't know what the better play is, but the better play is to not let this happen if you're playing the Ruy Lopez. So my opponent forces a queen trade. I happily oblige. Taking the queen is forced. So this king's in a horrible spot. I guess this rook can go behind it. Like, whatever. So I kind of noticed this knight and the king are kind of in the same diagonal. So you know what? I went for the pin. So this knight cannot move. And I'm going to castle the next turn. So that was my plan. The computer suggests, instead of doing this move, to restrict the movement of the knight. So if you have this kind of like pawn in front of the knight with this amount of spacing, this is very restrictive. And we're going to be seeing this a lot later in the game. And for the next like 3 moves, the computer kept recommending this move. I guess it's good the knight can come out over here. But I actually had plans to bring the knight out here to f6. So anyway, it proceeds like this. My opponent opens up the bishop. Castle. So now the bishop can attack the rook, but I don't really care too much about that. Okay, so here, king's in front of the rook. And this got me a little bit excited. So I decided to take. He can either damage a structure or take with the king, which, the king is kind of scary out here, but it's actually kind of safe. Computer recommends doing this so that you don't damage a pawn structure, and my light square bishop's dead, so I can't really attack this unless I move my knight. But anyway, my opponent takes like this. So just develop. I just wanted to get my pieces out, get both of my rooks into the game. Oh, right. I wanted to develop the bishop while attacking this, and there's kind of, you can't really defend that. I guess you can technically, but what's this rook doing? So opponent pushes a pawn. Basically, I gain a free turn from doing this. And honestly, it might have been better to just sack the pawn and bring your pieces out, but now I bring my pieces out, my rooks are connected, I can kind of do some nice stuff. My opponent sees, ooh, pin, goes for the pin. I'm actually not bothered by that. I could even like pull back, it's not that big of a deal. But I saw another way to kind of get out of the pin. So I deliver a rook check, take the rook, king takes back, rook check, and now I can get out of the pin. So that series of moves, instant replay, rook check, king has to move wherever it moves, it doesn't matter. I guess like this is possible too. But if this happens, I get out of the pin, which is exactly what I was aiming for. And I can even do like things like this afterwards. Um, so it wouldn't be that good for me. It would be okay, but it wouldn't be that good. Yeah, my opponent I don't think saw this move. So rook trade. Taking his force, I guess you could do that, but you'd just be down a rook. Check, get out of the pin, and now my knight can move. So my plan was to get my knight to this square. I could also go this way. Same result. I guess I decided to go here because it kind of like controls more squares in front of me, but didn't really make that much of a difference, I don't think. So opponent develops a knight. Doesn't want to come out here because I would just like take probably, but even if I took it, I don't think it's really that bad for the opponent. I guess like this is kind of weak, this is kind of weak, but you have like a bit of a central presence, but you know, my opponent decides to do it this way, and they also want more pieces on the board to give them a chance to win. This brings a rook into the game. Yeah, so at this point, I saw that I could push the bishop around. I think this is probably the only square. So my thinking was opponent was going to go back here, and then I was going to go here and target this pawn. And if takes, and I guess my opponent would like go here or something. I don't know. Anyway, that was kind of my game plan. Material is even, but these pawns are just like really horrible. This pawn's isolated. My pawns are very nice. I know I have a doubled pawn here, but it actually kind of works together. I kind of like this. But my opponent moves the other way. And this allows me to attack the bishop. Oh, I go there right away attacking the pawn. So here I win the pawn. It's just a free pawn. And here my opponent makes another mistake. Because I don't want to take this, right? Like, this doubled pawn is horrible for him. Like, he can't really move anything. And my knight can, like, live here forever. So, I'm not going to take him. Because if I take... that just... let's say, like, he makes a move like this. Which probably... it looks like a pretty good move. But if I take... white's pawns are actually very nice now. King can kind of, like, involve itself in the game. It's not a bad position for white. But for whatever reason, my opponent... takes my bishop. This is a horrible move. Because when I take back, look how nice this is. This is, like, amazing. You know, I had no central presence. This kind of, like, undamages my pawn structure, and it gives me more central space. And there's only one open file, I control it. So here my opponent offers the rook trade. And honestly, I don't really know why. I guess like there's no good spot for the rook, but I don't know. Maybe moving the king, maybe moving the knight and then moving the rook, that would be better. But I don't know. I don't really know what my opponent was thinking. So at this point, I'm happy to go for the trade. I notice this horrible structure. I could kind of plop my knight in here. The knight over here can kind of control these two squares, and the king's kind of stuck. It can't really move anywhere. So before doing that, let's get my king into the game. I kind of realized I'm able to get my king into the game. My opponent's kind of stuck. So opponent plays this knight move, which is it's a very good spot for the knight. If there's ever like a knight trade, you could like, you know, it's probably a draw if he manages to undouble his structure. We just like walk around with kings. But anyway, this is a very good move. At this point, I don't remember what I did. Oh yeah, get my king involved. My game plan at this point, like my knight's pretty. It's not good right now, but it has potential to be really good. I just want to shut down White's knight. So White actually has no forward moves with the knight. It's all covered by pawns. So king over here. Yeah, at this point, I'm okay, like, just like taking space. Might not be the best move, but I wanted the knight to just move backwards. Because there's no forward move that's not covered. I noticed these two pawns kind of like dominate this knight. So he moves to the side. I'm not really sure which move is better. But this kind of like gets the knight stuck. And it allows me to kind of launch an attack. Yeah, so I played this move. Computer was telling me play like this or whatever. But I saw that the knight had this move over here. And my entire game plan was just stop the knight from moving. I don't want the knight playing the game. So played this move. Computer didn't really like that move. But I thought it was pretty good. I know there's a lot of like backwards moves that he can make. That's good. But I decided not to let him move forward. King attacks the knight. My knight, I mean, I guess it's an okay move, but the thing is that I wanted to move my knight here anyway, to restrict the king. Now he gives me that move. He kind of like forces me to play that move, and I play it with check. Moves back. So, wasted move. Not really sure why I guess I wanted to like attack this pawn. Because I kind of figure like 4 on 4, this area is a draw. If I bring my king over, he brings his king over. This side is a draw, but I can win the left side really easily. It's a 3 on 2, but these doubled pawns, it's actually like a 3 on 1.5 here. So I just decided to just attack. I wanted to be really careful, like, if I ever move the G pawn all the way here, it kind of undoubles. I don't know. I guess this is a pretty good plane, moving this guy up. If takes, and then I have, like, these two pawns rolling down. Anyway, my opponent sees a threat, moves a king over, I guess, to defend it. Not so sure that's a good move. I kind of wonder if... No, I don't have this move yet, but because the knight the knight kind of covers my squares. I do not believe this was a good move. Yeah, I don't think I saw this move. I saw the other move, which is covered by a knight with check. I guess this is only move. I mean, I should have seen that. So move my king up. Knight again. I wanted to just deny forward movement. So move here. I think like the only forward move is here, which he plays. Again, these squares. I want to deny the squares. Just play this move. And this is covered. I think I'm doing an okay job. This kind of like allows the knight to jump in here. But it also hangs a pawn. So that's kind of the problem. If you don't play this move, your knight never moves and never gets into the game. But if you do play this move, this D pawn loses a guard. So just take the pawn. And what's worse, it's not one pawn. It's 2 pawns. This one, there's no way to defend it. And then also these pawns, it's, if my king gets here, it's bad news. So he hangs this pawn. Now, even if this is a draw, I have like a 4 on 3 on this side, 3 on 1.5 on this side. This is just like really winning. Opponent tries to attack. I mean, this pawn, like, it's not a problem. I can move this guy up. It's whatever. I take the second pawn. King moves up, I defend it. And here my opponent plays check. It's pretty, it's a pretty good move. He at the very least wins this pawn. So the attack on this side is over, right? Because I take, whichever way I take, there's going to be some issues. If I take, he takes this pawn, and then I have the doubled pawns. I just take with the king. I think both options are winning, to be honest. And that allows the knight to move here. At this point, I see that this pawn is hanging. I also see that this is check. So I was actually kind of considering just like sacking the pawn and just like moving forward. But I didn't really see a way, like a good way to proceed from there. So I just, because what I saw is that if I attacked, knight will check. I'll be forced to move somewhere, and there's no longer any way to defend this pawn because my king can't defend it. And then when I lose this pawn, I lose this pawn. So that's kind of what I saw. But I think, but then if I didn't do that, if I moved that to this, it takes this. I don't really like it. So I decide to lose this side because there's, because of my knight movement here, it's now a 4-on-2. Like, if I sack this entire side, I can win on this side. Just like roll all my pawns. I have my arrows on. So he goes for that. I move forward. So I actually lose 2 pawns, but I get 1 pawn in return for that. And then I get a 4-on-2. So this is an easy win. Attack this pawn. This pawn, there's no way to defend it. If you move forward, I can take it. Or I can even like push. Opponent pushes this pawn. Take, free pawn. And game plan is really simple. Just keep pushing, 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 pushing. Opponent tries to block this off. Attack the knight. King defends the knight. And just push, 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 push. It's over. If you don't take, I just promote. And there's no way to cover this square. Because you do check. I don't know. Say check. I could like move here. I don't know. Like wherever you move, I can either take your knight or move up. So taking is the best play, but 3-on-1. This is impossible for white to win. Yeah. So at this point, there's no way to stop the promotion. So that is how we got 1400. I know, bad game, bad opening. My opponent made a lot of mistakes, making all the wrong trades, and the opening was just disastrous. Honestly, like 1200s know not to play like this. I'm kind of surprised my almost 1400 opponent played like this, but I take those. I'm 1400. I'm happy. So peace out.